breathtaking, isn't it? Super Mario Galaxy, the third installment in the 3D Mario game series. We've been to a castle, we've been on holiday, it's space time. Galaxy's development goes all the way back to Mario 128, a tech demo showcasing 128 Marios on a floating disc, aka a great holiday destination. The game's future director and designer, Yoshiaki Koizumi, suggested that spherical-based platforms should be used in a future game. And despite fears that this just wouldn't be possible due to the technology at the time, a working prototype was developed. And this was really where Super Mario Galaxy was born. Quite quickly, the idea that this game should be set in space or on different planetoids was thought up, and everything just sort of developed from there. This game had a much heavier focus on appealing to everyone. The casual players who just found out their week play other games other than Wii Sports, all the way up to the veterans who've been playing since Mario 64 and want another challenge to sink their teeth into. This meant that the game was designed with this in mind. However, Miyamoto thought that this was a bit too easy and wanted the game to still hold some challenge to keep it exciting. And so, the health meter was set to 3 instead of 8, which seemed to be the standard for 3D Mario games at that point. This was something that really set Galaxy apart from the other games, not just because you had less HP to play with, but because you tended to play a lot differently. You'd find yourself being a lot more careful around enemies, which, combined with the platforming elements of Galaxy, usually resulting in being absolutely f***ing vaporized by the black holes, made for a lot of unique challenges that stood out from the previous games. The plot in Galaxy works really well. Mario games honestly don't need to ever have any elaborate story to work well, and in some cases the story could start to confuse the gameplay too much. Here, we start the game strolling through the Mushroom Kingdom. It's honestly beautiful. Everything from the night sky, to the way the street lamps are little stars, to the adorable little toad houses. Anyway, Bowser comes and f***ing nukes the entire village, and suddenly we're in Armageddon. This sets the tone for the rest of the game really. There are some beautiful moments and some epic cinematic moments. We immediately know that this is going to be a much more serious and intense story than we've seen before in a Mario game. Anyway, after Bowser literally steals some real estate, Kamek blasts Mario into space, and eventually we wake up on a small planet, and meet Rosalina, who grants us our spin move. Fun. And here we go, off to start our adventure through the cosmos. The objective of the game is to rescue Peach and save the universe. We can only do this by collecting power stars, which power the Comet Observatory. Each small star helps us get to different galaxies, but each grand star powers new areas of the observatory filled with its own galaxies to explore. Of course, Rosalina turns out to be the one that owns the observatory, and to be honest, it would help if she'd go out and fetch some of these stars with a magic wand, but hey ho. In the library of the observatory, we also get to see some of her backstory, which, weirdly, is pretty rare in a Mario title. The entire plot of Galaxy is just fantastic. We have very clear objectives, and know there is a lot at stake. Instead of just stealing the princess, like in most other games, Bowser has taken it upon himself to become a bit of a space pirate this time around. And honestly, I think it makes for one of the best plotlines in a Mario game so far. This game also feels incredible to play. Mario moves so well around all of the different stages. We have the classic jumps, the long jump, the backflip, the ground pound, and the homing ground pound. But of course this time around we have the spin attack. This is great for killing enemies, and even though it uses motion controls to work, still feels fantastic and responsive. However, strangely the offensive capabilities of the spin attack take a backseat a lot of the time. The main way you'll find yourself using the spin is to give yourself a small mid-air boost. 3D platformers can sometimes be a little tougher to move around than 2D ones, and this little reposition in mid-air does wonders for traversing stages. Plus, if you're about to undershoot a jump slightly, you can give yourself that little bit of extra help. Galaxy just wouldn't feel like Galaxy without this mid-air spin. It just ends up becoming second nature to spin in mid-air, and the game would genuinely feel so much worse without it in my eyes. There are very few Galaxies that feel bad. Each have so much personality and fun packed into them. One of the ones that has always stood out to me has to be Honey Hive Galaxy. It's one of the first you'll play through, but my god is it great! All of these little bee dudes, the nice green grass, the flowers, the trees, everything just feels amazing. You will either come across galaxies that are made of big open areas like this one, or sometimes you'll have these little galaxies that are lots of tiny little planets. And while both are great, I think I prefer the big ones. There's just so much more that you can explore. In the little planetoids, you get to see most of what it has to offer just by following the main path. This has a much more intense feeling to it as you're speeding your way through the level while beating up baddies. But in the big, open levels, you need to explore to see what's going on. There are areas that you only get to see by wandering around, which is pretty damn fun in itself. The different missions you play in each galaxy will alter the level slightly. Either an area will be blocked off, or you will be sent to different planetoids most of the time. For example, in Honey Hive, the first mission will have you making your way through the level and into a tunnel, which eventually takes you to the launch star, that brings you to the Queen. Then the next mission will have sealed off the tunnel, and suddenly you are scaling your way up through the trees to get to the top of the windmill. And it's level design like this that keeps the galaxies fresh, yet familiar. Galaxy's missions are also much more linear than both of the previous 3D games, especially 64. In 64, the world you entered stays pretty much the same no matter which mission you select for the majority of the time. This means you can grab a variety of stars, even if you were supposed to be going for a completely different one, giving you a much more open gameplay experience. Galaxy is very much the opposite in this regard. The mission you select is 9 times out of 10 the star you will end up with. The exceptions being the hidden stars, which reward you for going and doing a bit of exploring and going off the main path. In many ways, this would be such a downgrade from a game like 64, which Galaxy was supposed to be living up to. However, the level design in this game is just so superb that it more than makes up for it. The levels are designed with the intent of getting you to do one particular thing, and if you scattered a bunch of stars around the map, you'd probably end up getting halfway through a mission and then accidentally finding the star to another. Plus, it doesn't really allow for the map to alter itself each time. And actually, while we're on the subject of missions, this game is a completionist's wet dream. You have 120 stars to collect in this game. This includes the main missions, the hidden stars within normal levels, prankster comet stars where you'll have to replay a level with a twist, like only having one hit point the entire time or racing against Space Mario, purple comet stars which only appear after beating Bowser's reactor where you have to collect 100 purple coins, Luigi power stars where you have to find Luigi in different levels, green stars which want to be cool and different from the normie stars, and when you get all of those you unlock 3 whole new f***ing galaxies. Am I forgetting anything? Oh fuck yes! You then get to replay the entire game as Luigi, who has different strengths and weaknesses for another challenge. You will rarely see this game dwell on one idea for too long, and when in space, the possibilities feel almost endless. You'll be jumping around on a weirdly shaped planet, then suddenly you're running around inside a cube-shaped room. Next thing you know, you're being blasted onto a giant peanut with boulders, collecting pieces of another launch star, which blasts you over to another planet, which grows a vine that swings you onto its next door neighbour. Before you know it, you're flying towards a giant egg which hatches this monstrosity, who has been alive for roughly 4 seconds and still wants to kill you. This is the first mission of the first galaxy. This game has so many ideas that Nintendo had to make a whole second game just to fit them in. You will never be standing in the same spot for long because Galaxy always wants to keep you moving around and experiencing different things, and I love this game. The enemies in this game aren't anything too special compared to the other Mario games, but they fit in so well with the gameplay. You have your standard ones like Goombas and Koopas and so on, but some brand new guys like Octoombas. But I think the enemies that truly shine in Galaxy are the boss battles. While the method to beating them does tend to boil down to hitting them in the weak spot a few times, each battle feels so different from the last, and the strategy you use to beat them is completely different. In one battle you'll be playing tennis with King Caliente, in another you'll have to scale a giant robot and then guide bullet bills back onto itself. Then you'll grab Boos by the tongue and swing them around into a big rock monster. And of course, the Bowser fight. I really love this fight because of how much weight it has to it. Everything around you is screaming end of the universe as we know it, and we end up shooting Bowser into a fucking sun. The power-ups in Galaxy are pretty fun, but definitely not the be-all and end-all of a level. First up we have B Mario, which allows you to fly for a brief period, walk on honeywell tiles, and on flowers. The drawback being that you will instantly lose this power if you touch water. Boo Mario, you can float around and go through some walls, but touching light beams or another Boo will make you lose the power up, which is pretty annoying because suddenly all the Boos want your babies. Spring Mario forces you to constantly be bouncing around and is kind of annoying to control at times, but you'll need it to spring around a bunch of obstacles, and apparently touching just about anything loses the power up. The Fire and Ice Flowers make a bit of a return here too. The Ice Flower letting Mario skate over water and lava, while also being able to do things like wall jump up a waterfall, and the Fire Flower allowing you to throw fireballs around. The Ice Flower is utilised much better than the Fire Flower here. It allows for a bunch of new abilities and for extra exploration, but the Fire Flower generally is only used to hit enemies and light torches, which wouldn't be too bad in itself. However, you only get 20 seconds of this before you lose it. The power-ups in Galaxy definitely are not the most exciting part of the game. They feel more like a tool that the levels occasionally design themselves around. The levels they appear in tend to be really fun, and I love being met with a new power-up while playing, but they don't take centre stage here. There is actually one more power-up that I haven't mentioned, which is the Red Star, which grants Mario the ability to fly. This would have been fucking useful back in Good Egg Galaxy. This is by far the most underutilised power-up in the entire game. You only get to use it for one real mission and to explore the HUD world. I really wish that a couple of levels could have been designed around being able to use the red star, because damn, this thing is fun to use. The music in Mario Galaxy will always be one of the main selling points to me. It's so beautiful and ties up the themes to every galaxy perfectly. The soundtrack is full of these amazing songs, performed by a big symphony orchestra, and my god, they give the game such a cinematic feel to it. Gliding through the cosmos, all while these grand pieces of music play in the background, is what gives Galaxy a lot of its charm. This is the type of soundtrack to put other soundtracks to shame, because, in my eyes, there has not been another Nintendo game that has come close to sounding as amazing as Galaxy did. Tracks that play while in Honey Hive give the entire galaxy what I can only describe as a worker bee feel to it, and would you look at that, there are bees in this galaxy. Wow. Space Junk Galaxy is one that is filled with very little at all. There is just a lot of random bits of debris floating around everywhere, and the music that accompanies it captures that emptiness perfectly. Look, I could go on and talk about how every stage has amazing music, but I'm going to talk about my favourite piece of music from this game, Rosalina in the Observatory. This is the music that plays in the hub world of the game, and it's beautiful. This whole waltz feel it has to it, as a beautiful combination of instruments just seem to complement each other constantly as it goes on. Nothing takes over each other in this song, and it feels like this perfect harmony in my brain as I harass innocent toads. The truly amazing thing about this hub world music though, is that it evolves and changes as you power up the observatory. It starts with only a few instruments, and then becomes just that little bit more grand and big, almost like we're powering up the music as well as the observatory. Then, as we're nearing the end of our journey, we get to hear the final variation of this music. It's almost like the observatory itself is singing to us. At the start of the game, it has this small and delicate, but beautiful voice, and as we continue to power it up more and more, it evolves into a strong and powerful masterpiece, and no matter which piece you listen to, it feels like everything is constantly working in harmony with each other within the song. Okay, I'm done being pretentious now. The only drawback I can really hold to Galaxy personally is that it does feel like it tries to pad out its gameplay just a little bit. I think the idea that it needed 120 stars, like its predecessors, sort of overtakes how fun it really is to play through so many prankster comets. The time levels don't really feel like much more of a challenge than the regular levels are anyway, and while the 1 HP comets are challenging, I rarely enjoy playing them anywhere near as much as I enjoy the normal missions. A lot of people talk about motion controls ruining this game, and I couldn't disagree more with them. Anytime motion controls are introduced, they feel almost natural to use. The spin attack has always felt responsive for me, and never gone off by mistake. And while a lot of the motion control based levels can be frustrating at times, I really don't see much of a problem with them. They're meant to be difficult, and we only see them a small handful of times. Plus, if you don't enjoy that sort of thing, you can easily skip it. Super Mario Galaxy will always be my favourite Mario game. And honestly, it might be my favourite game of all time full stop. I can still remember how f***ing giddy I felt seeing the disc for the first time, putting it into my Wii, and hearing Charles Martinet scream the title back at me. Every part of this game, from its charming level design, to its outstanding music, to even the small things like Rosalina's storybook, is a masterpiece. Galaxy is the game that I look at as the standard for what a game could be, and when I played through Odyssey for the first time when it came out, I honestly felt that same excitement again. There probably won't be a Super Mario Galaxy 3, because Mario and Nintendo love to keep moving forward and experimenting with new things, but I'm completely fine with that, because no matter how many times I play through this game, I never seem to grow tired of it.